Hey, welcome to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest, Alan Bishop. Hey, this channel is all about home distilling and legal distilling. If you've got questions, reach out to us in the comments below, social media, or via bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Hey guys, back with a it's not even a flight of whiskeys or spirits this time, and Justin's not here, so today's a special tasting show with the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. I'm here with my dad, Old Dale Bishop.
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 I'm here.
Anyways, today we're going to be diving into something really cool. Not going to show you the label yet, but needless to say, this is a 7-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, and I like to dispel mythology around distilling in general. I also like to dispel bullshit within the industry of distillation, particularly when it comes to bourbon distillation, and there is a lot of bullshit out there. We saw a bunch of it this past week with marketing from a certain brand, but we won't get into that here. Nonetheless, this is something I've been anxious to get a hold of for a while now. When I saw it come out, let's just say that I'd been watching for a product like this to come out since the time that I left a certain brandy distillery in Louisville, Kentucky, and came to Southern Indiana to start distilling, because I knew it existed, because I fucking made it. So a little sad that it didn't come out under the proper label that it was intended for, but we'll get to that here momentarily. So if you're unsure or unaware of what I'm talking about and the rumors that we're going to dispel today, this is a distillate from a company that buys spirits and resells them and blends spirits, and they also run an import service called PM Spirits. It's Micdrop Spirits. I know some of you are already laughing. So the label is the L2201 release. So, and I'm going to turn to their website here real quick to read to you their descriptor. And then we're going to dispel all the rumors and all the mythology around it, because I tried to go directly to them at one point in time and didn't get an answer. But I also, for whatever reason, and I'm not blaming them, maybe it's their PR people, maybe they're connected to people I used to work with, whatever, I don't know. I got blocked at one point in time when this release first came out on social media from talking to these folks, which sucks, because there's a cool story behind this particular product, and one that only myself and my father can tell, because we know, because we were there. So anyways, so according to the Micdrop websites, Micdrop L22-01, 7-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Remember that Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey part, because it's funny. So Micdrop started as a side project, enabling PM Spirits to have access to American whiskey for our New York market. At the time, we had none to sell. The first few releases happened to be MGP for no particular reason, other than the fact that out of all the casks we tasted, we felt those stood out the most and met the criteria for types of releases we wanted to make happen. After the third release, we started to wonder what Micdrop should actually stand for. We decided to use it as a brand that would shine a spotlight on distillers and barrels that we felt were particularly good. That's funny. A brand that would shine a spotlight on distillers using non-disclosed product to shine a spotlight on said distillers. And even if it were disclosed, I bet our name wouldn't have been attached to it. That we felt were particularly good. Our fourth release was a rye whiskey produced by Wilderness Trail, simply because to us, they may very well be the best player in that category at the moment. I don't disagree with you. I think short of Leopold, Wilderness Trail makes the best rye to be had out there on the market, absolutely. Liberty Pole Spirits makes pretty good rye too out in Pennsylvania. So in the middle of 2021, we stumbled upon something very, very different. When a friend suggested we taste two specific barrels, they contained bourbon that was double distilled in Louisville, Kentucky on a Vendome copper pot still, with a mash bill of 60% corn, 17% wheat, 13% oats, and 10% barley malt. That sounds strangely familiar. They aged in Kentucky in two 60-gallon New American Oak barrels with a number 2 char, also sounds familiar, for a little over 7 years. Total yield was 55.1 gallons with slightly over 54% evaporation. Let me make note of that 54% evaporation, because that's a bullshit number too. It wasn't evaporation, that shit was fucking drank. We'll get to that. So anyways, when this came out, I got well, let me go back to this, hold on. This bottling was obtained by dumping together the only 2 casks of bourbon ever made with this mash bill at this distillery. Also the only 2 barrels of bourbon ever made at that distillery. It was double distilled on a copper pot still and aged for 7 years in Louisville, Kentucky. It has been bottled at a cask strength of 58% ABV without chill filtration or added color. Well, at least they got the cask strength right, and they also didn't chill filter or add color. And I'm not going against Micdrop. There's nothing against them. I think it's cool that this came out, but I would have loved for this to have been a thing that my father and I could have contributed to for you guys, because it's so much cooler when you actually know the story behind this and the history behind it. And you can dispel some of the rumors behind it for sure. So that being said, let me state this. So that particular mash bill, 60% corn, 17 wheat, 13 oats, and 10% malt. Have you ever seen that anywhere else other than a bottle of, and I don't have the bottled and bond in front of me, but I do have the 2-year. Brian Cushing was nice enough to find one last bottle of that for me, of our award-winning Spirits of French Lick, Lee W. Sinclair. You've never seen that mash bill anywhere else, I guarantee it. You might see it now because people are trying to imitate it, and that's fine, and let them have at it, and I hope they make great stuff. It won't be the same as what we make, and that's just the way distillation works. The reason that you've never seen that anywhere else other than there and in this Micdrop release is because that is my mash bill that I created as a kid growing up, that we just so happened to produce as a family on the farm. And then later, when Joe Herron at Copper and Kings decided that he needed to be part of the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, but they wouldn't let him be a part of it because he didn't make any bourbon, and they told him he had to make at least 20 barrels of bourbon a year to be on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. He came to me and asked me to make a bourbon for that particular project, which I obliged to do with my family mash bill, as long as Joe let my dad come and help. So there's the first part of it. The second part of it is that as long as we're here clearing up some of the misconceptions and you getting the real story of it, it was not all distilled at Copper and Kings. We actually ground the grain and fermented the grain at Moonshine University, and one of the most embarrassing stories in my life was that they were having a rum class that particular week. And for anybody who's been to Moonshine University, they know there's big windows that look into the distillery.
They watched us all the time.
They watched us fuck up all the way up, like fuck around and find out fuck up. And the bad part was Lisa Wicker, a very good friend of mine, was in that class. And what had happened was we took the corn elsewhere. We bought Indiana corn from a specific family farm in Indiana and had taken it somewhere else to be ground. And they did not do that good of a job of it. But the top of the bags of corn looked great.
Yeah.
Apparently there were whole kernels of corn in the bottom of the bags. And so we had to clean out the cooker by hand in front of an entire class of people taking the rum class at Moonshine University. Which was rather embarrassing. Nonetheless, this was, I think we did this was like in February of that year, whatever year it was, maybe like 2015. Yeah, February 15.
Somewhere in there, right before you left.
Well, it was
about a year before you left.
Yeah, about a year before. It was about February 2015. I'd been at Copper and Kings for about a year at that time. So we fermented it there at Moonshine University. We did the stripping runs with the help of Kevin Hall and Tyler Gomez there at Moonshine University, using their beautiful little Vendome copper still. So it is double copper pot distilled on Vendome pot stills, not one, two different ones. We collected that, and then we filed a transfer and bond, and we moved that with a box truck down to Copper and Kings, where we had just installed Sophia. Is it not Sophia? No, I'm retarded. Sarah.
Sarah.
Yeah, Sophia's at Spirits of French Lick. I'm getting confused. But Sarah, the 50-gallon little Vendome copper pot still at Copper and Kings. We then doubled all of these low wines off of the Moonshine University still at Copper and Kings on the 50-gallon Sarah. And we picked out it was actually 62-gallon or Kelvin Bordeaux barrels, brand new oak, new American oak, number 2 char, medium plus toast. Bordeaux barrels to match the Copper and Kings aesthetic, and filled those with the distillate. I think we proofed it down to 105 entry proof, just like we do at Spirits of French Lick. And then that went into the aging cellar at Copper and Kings, where apparently someone's friends found these 2 interesting barrels 7 years later.
Stuck back in the corner somewhere.
Somewhere where everybody could drink out of them. Speaking of that 54% evaporation rate, so those 2 barrels were never completely full. One of them was full all the way. The other one was maybe filled a half the way, something of that nature.
Fat, maybe.
And then myself, my father, and then various other employees who I will not name at Copper and Kings proceeded to hit those barrels pretty fucking hard after about 3 or 4 months just to see how they were progressing. So there was, of course, a little angel share, I'm sure, but part of that was because the barrel was also never filled completely, and then there was a whole lot of devil share involved in that too, as far as people tasting those, because it was the only bourbon Copper and Kings had ever produced, right? And it's a unique bourbon with a unique mash bill. It is essentially, for all intents and purposes, for better or worse, it is a 7-year-old Lee W. Sinclair. Now, I had watched Copper and Kings after my time there was up and I came to Spirits of French Lick to release these 2 barrels. I had hoped that they'd become tasting room releases, and I think that they probably, the quality of them the last time that I tasted them certainly would have warranted that after a 4-year period or longer, that they would have had the quality to be specialty unique barrels. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about when we were distilling that. Bologna and cheese sandwiches, that's a memory that I have. So long and short of it is, this is the first legal bourbon my father and I ever distilled. Ever. The first legal one ever. It's also the first and only ever Bishop family, at least this line of the Bishop family bourbon, to ever be distilled as a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. I will never be distilling another Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey in my life, guaranteed, because I'm Hoosier through and through, and I don't think the old man's going to be moving down there anytime soon to go distill for anybody and make a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. So this is the only Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey that the Bishops have ever distilled.
Probably ever will be.
And ever will, at least this line of the Bishops. Now, there are some other Bishops down around Greensburg, and whatever they want to do, let them have at it. That's fine. I'll help them out with it. But I saw this pop up about a year ago when it came out, I guess. Maybe a little bit over a year ago now. I don't remember.
It's
but
been over a year you told me about it.
Yeah, I got excited about it. I wanted to have this conversation with the owners. I thought it was cool. And then I got blocked on social media for whatever reason. But the other reason I got excited about it was because the fucking sticker price on this thing, the 7-year-old Lee W. Sinclair, is $400, right? Our 4-year-old bottled and bond Lee Sinclair, which is now sitting at a 5.5-year-old bottled and bond, sells for like $55, right? So can you get $400 out of this bottle? Well, apparently you can, because once I started looking for it on the internet, it was actually selling for anywhere from $900 to about $1,300 or $1,400 a bottle, which is fucking insanity in my opinion. So, you know, could I set back at that price? You know, I could set back 10 barrels of Lee Sinclair that I could buy myself, and there's my retirement. I'm good to go. So, you know,
really interested, we can sell them some barrel and bond.
Right, you want some more of this stuff, Micdrop?
We can sell you some more of it.
I've got some 6-year stuff right now. You wait 1 more year. I'm just saying.
Same thing.
Just saying, maybe not as sexy as double Vendome copper pot distilled in Louisville, Kentucky.
It's better because it's from Indiana,
and it's award winning for sure. So this hadn't won awards until I came along and remade it myself over here on the right side of the river. Nonetheless. So apparently proceeds from this particular whiskey go to gun safety initiatives, and I'm not making fun of that. I just find it rather ironic because my father and I obviously both do Hell's Half Acre Hellbilly Burlesque show, and we do talk a lot about gun safety in there. But we've done some pretty stupid shit with black powder pistols, and I'm not encouraging anyone to ever do that. I'm just saying there's a little irony involved in it going to gun safety initiatives, but it is also very cool. And I know Micdrop has done several of these releases where they're giving the profits away to you know, help various different causes, and I do think that that's very, very cool. Apparently its average score is a 90, which is pretty fucking decent.
Yeah.
For a 7-year-old alternative barrel, alternative distillation methodology, alternative grain, and I believe that I used brandy yeast in this as well. I think this was the first time I played with brandy yeast with this particular mash bill. And for a mash bill that I came up with when I was 15, I'm pretty fucking happy with that. I'm pretty impressed with that. So now here comes the cool part. I am lucky enough to have really great friends in this industry that knew that I was looking for this. They've heard me complain about it before on Distillers Talk, etc. They've seen my post about it on social media, various different places. And they also knew that the important part to me was not so much that we got the credit for it, or that even the rumors were dispelled and the truth came out, but that I wanted a sample of it to share with my dad. Because again, this is the very first legal bourbon that we ever made, and we made it together. We literally picnicked in damn Moonshine University, eating bologna and cheese sandwiches and potato chips,
brownies,
while we embarrassed ourselves on the first day. And of course, you know, I think we did 3 stripping runs, and we got it figured out pretty well. but it's something special to us, and it's something that I wanted to share with him. So there's two, dump out a little bit that I had left of the other stuff there. There's two people in particular I want to thank, two Instagram accounts. So the first one is Copper Pot Brandy. Copper Pot Brandy is a huge Copper and Kings fan, and I've become very good friends with him. He's also a fan of Spirits of French Lick. Obviously, the two companies share more than a few things in common, including a distiller, myself, and some of the methodology used at Copper and Kings is the same as the methodology used at Spirits of French Lick for obvious reasons. But he tagged me in a post by Beginner Bourbon on Instagram, another account on Instagram, who had posted the Micdrop and posted a review, a very favorable review. And I reached out to them, and Copper Pot Brandy reached out to them, and they were cool enough that they just want to know what the real story was and dispel some of the rumors around that story. And so I was able to do that, and he was kind enough to send me this sample, which we're going to get into in review. And I don't know if it's any good or not. I don't know anybody that's ever fucking tasted it except for that guy, right? I mean, I don't know how many bottles they got out of that total, but you know, we've not tasted this since when I left. I left in October, the end of October of the same year that it was distilled. So I never even got to see this reach 1 year old. And unfortunately, I was not on good terms with the vast majority of the staff at Copper and Kings after I left for whatever reason.
I just want to see what a $1,000 bottle of whiskey tastes like.
A $1,000 bottle of our fucking whiskey, right? I made the shit. I wouldn't pay $1,000 for it, but more power to anybody that does. I mean, listen, you pay $1,310.99 for this bottle, and now you understand the story and you want it autographed, I will sign your bottle for $100. And you don't have to give it to me. You can donate that to whatever your favorite charity is. You just let me know what it is so I can fucking tell people about it, that I got $100 for an autograph. Because listen, nothing stokes an ego quite like somebody mailing me their full bottle and expecting to get it back.
And if you want just some more $1,000 a bottle in another year, we'll sell you some barrels.
Yeah, I'll have 7-year-old Lee Sinclair within the next year. I mean, if you guys...
If it's the same thing.
I'll sell it to you for the sticker price of $400 a bottle. I should say this is not going to be exactly the same. A, I suspect that I've become a better distiller, as have you. B, it was made in 2 different facilities. C, it wasn't done exactly the way that I would prefer to do it, because Moonshine University was nice enough to let us use their facilities, so we had to do things their way. And D, this does not have caramel malt. It's just distiller's malt, as opposed to Lee Sinclair, which has caramel. So it does have a nice color, though.
It does.
I would like to know if those barrels stayed in the actual cellar the entire time.
Yeah, not moved somewhere else.
Well, not moved out to they had that other warehouse out on, what was it, Strawberry Lane, which it would have got super hot in. So it's going to be 116 proof. Yeah. 58%. Yeah, 116. It smells like Lee Sinclair.
It does.
I'm going to let you try. I'll save you a little drink too. My wife's sitting over here looking at me, so... Listen, I'm as surprised as anybody. I'm surprised as anybody watching this that ever a bottle of anything that we made ended up selling for this kind of price, and I am grateful for that. I think that is very, very cool. I think that's something that very few distillers ever really get to say, especially craft distillers. I think it's super cool. It's the first bourbon again that me and Dad made legally. I think it's cool that it was made at Moonshine University and Copper and Kings. It's exclusively a Kentucky thing, exclusively a Louisville, Kentucky thing, involving 2 dumbass Hoosiers that just lucked into their jobs. I think all the alternative stuff about it's super cool. And just to be able to have this in front of us is an absolute blessing. So thank you, Copper Pot Brandy and Beginner Bourbon. Beginner Bourbon, I'll get it out in a minute, for sending this. You already took a drink of it.
Yep. I think it's got a little sweeter taste.
I doubt it has a sweeter taste because they're the same kind of barrels. It's just a larger barrel than a 53. But we did 62s and 64s at Spirits of French Lick too, and that changes the profile. It's definitely got that Kelvin barrel profile, because you still with Kelvin barrels, because they still char the inside of them using their spent oak, that their waste. You get a little smoke off a Kelvin barrel, and it definitely has that.
That might be what I'm tasting, the smoke.
It's fucking straight up Lee Sinclair. Like, there's a little
taste. It's just got a little bit of that smoky taste when you first had it. It's
a little softer than the current Lee Sinclair Spirits of French Lick, and I suspect that was because I was making very brandy-based cuts off of this. I was being very, very conservative with my cuts at that time. I'm actually surprised that the barrel didn't just overwhelm it completely. But the oats come through. You get that creamy mouthfeel we talk about with oats all the time. The corn is there. All the grain is still there. All the idea of what we developed into respect the grain at Spirits of French Lick is in there. And there was actually, let me see if I can find it. There was another. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Hold on just a second. I had another one pulled up. I don't know if I can find it now or not. We'll see. Well, I can't find it now. But anyways, there were a couple of reviews that speculated that this was our stuff, and certainly, if there's any of you out there that have bought this and you like it, you'll definitely like the Lee Sinclair Bottled and Bond. They're very, very similar. This is definitely a little softer, maybe a little rounder. Of course, at 7 years old versus the Bottled and Bond at 4 or now 5+ years, it's going to be a little softer. And with those cuts being different, it's going to be changed quite a bit as well. If I remember right, this was EC 1118 or Pradal de Mousse brandy yeast is what this was. So it's the most common yeast used on the face of planet Earth for making wine and brandy.
I'm not complaining, it's good.
You know, it's a funny thing. I always joke about people saying that Indiana's the wrong side of the river. But I don't think that river fucking affected that, not one fucking bit on either side, do you?
No, I don't think it did either.
Not at all. This tastes like two dumbasses from Pekin, Indiana put it together, and they just so happen to have access to a distillery on the Louisville side.
I think we could have done the same thing over here.
We have. And for those who don't know, our Bottled and Bond Lee Sinclair was at one point in time voted the best bourbon outside of Kentucky by Fred Minnick. It was also, I think, number 6 or number 7 on his top 100 that same year. It has won numerous awards all over the world. I don't know. I guess the only thing left to do now, we've dispelled the mythology. We've tasted it. I'm enthralled to get to fucking taste it. I think we let Kim taste it. I think you need to come try this. Well, you got to speak up where people can hear you. You already done finished yours.
I finished it. That was good.
I did go with you one trip to Moonshine University. I was pregnant with Penny.
Yeah, you were pregnant with Penny.
Penny and I was there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, if anybody else ever has a sample that they'd like to let go of, I would like to have a slightly larger sample to set back for some special occasion in the future.
You know what the smell reminds me of?
With my wife and my dad and my daughter, so.
You know what the smell reminds me of?
What?
How the chai smelled at Copper and Kings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I picked up that chai sort of, and or shay as they call it. It's shay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
The haunted basement at Copper and
Yes,
Kings.
exactly.
But that's what it smells like to me. It doesn't smell like
Well, give it a taste and
bourbon.
See what you. It does.
It smells like bourbon, but it brings back the memories of being in that.
It has the Copper and Kings fingerprint on it. Absolutely, 100%. And honestly, even though I don't talk to a lot of those guys, I'll even throw this out there to Brandon O'Daniel and Travis Thompson. I know you guys babysat those barrels for a while until whoever picked them up. But thanks for not fucking it up.
Should have hung on to it.
You should have put it out, guys. It's good shit. You guys could have thrown this in one of your brandy barrels for a year or two. This right here would have been fucking fantastic, and I would have sent people far and wide to go pick this up.
You guys should have kept and got your thumbs off your butts and started making some.
He's just fucking with you. You guys should make some of that, though. There's no reason not to. It was made there first, so.
You got the stills, do it.
Yep. All right, guys, that's what we got. So this is a pretty special tasting, I think. And again, Copper Pot Brandy and Beginner Bourbon on Instagram. Thank you, guys. This means the world. If anybody has any further questions about the Micdrop release, let me know. if you do have a sample you want to share, again, I'd love to put 2 to 4 ounces of this back for some special occasion in the future with my daughter, my wife, and my dad. So, all right, love you guys. Later.
See ya.
What?
See ya.
You got anything else to say about it?
No.
Okay.